In this one, I'm going to show you how to make it so that an enemy will decide to choose what mech to pilot, go to that mech, climb it, and then pilot it. So if you're wondering, by the way, real quickly, why these are so small, basically, I decided to use Unreal's default way of like Unreal default character character actor. Hold on, what do you call these? So when you make a new the character class, a blueprint class character, I decided to use the default one, and for the default one, the box here, so the capsule here is only so big. But to scale it up artificially, so to scale it up, I do that at the beginning of the game, where in events begin play, it's scaled up 5 times. And for it to be scaled up properly, it needs to be a bit above the air, so that way its feet are like just automatically on the ground. Anyways, when I press Alt-P and start playing, as you can notice, our guy will go, because this one's nearest, he'll climb, quote unquote, it'll activate, and he will start chasing me. Spooky. We'll now destroy that. Go away, loser. And without wasting further time, let's talk about how we do this. Okay, so how do we do this? As you can imagine, there's like a zillion moving parts. Frankly, I'm having difficulty deciding where to start. But I think I'll start by explaining what needs to be done for, like, what variables need to be in place for both our pilots, so the red goober in this case, and our mech. So let's go over our pilot first. We'll just click our pilot real quick. So ignore all of this. This mess here is for climbing and piloting. Right? And to make all of this possible, to make climbing and piloting possible, we have 2 variables, pmech and climbing mech. So climbing mech is just a simple Boolean check of, like, basically when we start climbing the mech, then we turn that to true. And the reason why is basically it's to handle errors. That's the only reason why we're going to be needing this variable. That, or if you want to do some special stuff whilst you're climbing the mech and you want the game to know that, then you'll be using this climbing mech. And for pmech itself, it's going to be an object instance of our pilot mech. So of these guys here, piloted mech. So, and to go over this real quick, of how to create a variable like this, you'd go click variable. My variable, let's say. Currently, notice how it's a Boolean, but we would want this to be our mech. So mech, and we have here piloted mech, and we want this to be an object reference. So that's how you go about creating these variables. Once again, when the time comes, and the time will come, I'll explain this madness here. Don't worry about it. So that's what needs to be the variables that need to be in place in our red goober. aka our pilot. Now let's go over to the piloted mech. So if you go to edit piloted mech, we have actually just one variable here, and that is just our pilot instance. So this is like, the mech is like, okay, who is going to be piloting me? So in this case, it's a red goober, and once again, just called pilot instance and red goober. So once again, if you, just in case you're like, oh, how do I do this? And I think the first time should have been the charm. We'll do the second time anyways. Pilot, we'll say, and Boolean pilots. Sorry, this will be once again red goober, and once again object reference. There we go. Pretty simple. Now, if you're wondering why we have 2 components here, that will be for climbing. So we have a climb start. So we have 2 C components: climb start, climb end here. And the way you do these, by the way, this is going to be for like the climbing, right? So it'll be like, oh, you'll go from here. So yeah, you'll go from here all the way up there. And the way you put these components here is fairly simple. You just go add components, scene, and you drag them wherever the heck you want. So like drag it here, that's one, and the second one we'll drag it up here, for example, right? So that's how you would go about doing that. Also quickly, before I forget to mention, the way we scale up our actor is simply here at the begin play, set actor scale 3D. So set actor scale 3D, and from there scale, I decided to scale up by 5 times. You choose whatever works for you. And of course, rename them here, make it nicer. Okay, so these are the variables that you want the pilots and the mech to have. Now let's go over the behavior real quick. So originally our enemies had this very simple behavior tree called a Goober behavior tree that basically worked as follows. If it can see you, then it will find the player location, move to that location, wait 0.1 seconds, and rinse repeat. So that would just basically work as a very simple following script for the player. And if it couldn't see you, then it'll wait 2 seconds, find random location, and move to said random location. So find player location in itself is a custom script. If you're curious, it's very simple. It uses a Blackboard key selector. So this is very important in case you don't know. This is absolutely vital for AI programming. If you don't have a Blackboard key selector, you go here, variable, then you name a variable. So it could be, I'll just call this Blackboard key selector, Blackboard key selector. And not very original. It's going to be a bit confusing, but I don't know, I couldn't think of a name. Then from here, variable type, Blackboard key selector. And from here, you can either get value as, and it could be anything, right? So for example, we have here in our Blackboard, target location, self actor, can see player, and pmech, right? So sorry, whoa, sorry. So we have here a vector, an object type, a Boolean type, and again another object type, right? And so we can do that. So we can get these values, get value as Boolean, or get value as object, or get value as vector. And similarly, you can also do that for as a vector. Sorry, sets. You can set value. So sets value as a vector for our Blackboard key selectors. Sets value as vector, like so. And most importantly, for these Blackboard key selectors, it is best to make them instance editable. So that way you can actually plug in a variable here. So for example, for player location, we'll compile. Then notice how here we can actually plug in variables. So this is very important. So that is the general gist of Blackboard key selectors. So for our find player location, what we do, get player location, get actor location, and in a random, then we do get random points in navigable radius. So this just helps us, makes it just a bit random. I think it's supposed to make it better. To be frank with you, I'm not quite sure. Then we set that as the Blackboard values vector for our Blackboard key selector. We call it location. And here, hold on, we'll just compile this again. And here we set location to target location. I believe target location and self actor are given, but if you don't have these, you could just click here, vector, and then you could just call it like, you know, my location or something, right? Anyways, we'll just delete this. Then we'll go here. Then we finish execute for AI functions also. We plug that in. Finish execute is very important. Otherwise, like for some reason, AI just doesn't know that you're done. It will just like stand there like an idiot. So this will be very important. And now that I explained the basic behavior tree, I'll talk about the modifications to our new behavior tree. So we have our root. Then from our selector, we have once again the very similar can see player is set, can see player is not set. And quick side notes, where this is set, so can see player sets, we'll go over the group controls or the basic enemy controller. Basically, we have here an AI perception component that you add to your controller. We just type AI perception, and from there we have an AI sight configuration, and from there we cast to first-person character. And if we're not disguised, then so if you're disguised, then it will just set it to false all the time. And if you're not disguised, then it will set it to if it successfully sends. So it will successfully sense you with these parameters here. Anyways, so that is the basic of how it works. Your Can See Player Set works, like when it sees you. And we have that here as well. But notice how here we have a bit of a different thing here. So like it's a bit more complicated, as you can see, but don't worry, it's not much more complicated, right? Like, so we have another selector. So from here, selector, then from Can See Player, then we have sequence. But here, then we have another selector because we have to choose between two stuff again. So that being PMech is not set or PMech is set. Now, if you're wondering what the heck that's about, then let's go over quickly what PMech is. And PMech is an object type variable. And basically, what this is saying is like, hey, guys, do we have a variable, an instance for PMech, right? Like, do we have a mech that we can go to? Because if we don't, then what we'll do is ignore this for now, then we'll just, chase the player around. However, if we do, if there is a mech, then we will go to its location, and then once we collide with that mech, then we can trigger that climbing script that we have. Hold on, where the heck is it? Oh yeah, there it is, climbing and piloting script we have. And from there, we're good to go, we're golden, right? And here we have these two very important tasks. So from this PMech is not set to PMech is set. Let's go over to PMech is not set. So this is the simple, gee, I wonder, let's just chase the player. But here, we have here find PMech. So let's go over what that is. It's a bit complicated looking, I'll admit, but it's fairly simple, so don't worry about it. So we have here a bunch of variables. And yes, we will be using all of these, so that there shouldn't be any bloat here. So we start here with an event receive execute AI. Then we cast that to our pilot actor. So in our case, in my case, it's direct goober. Then I promote that to a variable pilot, because then the reason why I do that, it will just make things a lot easier. Then from there, I'll get all the actors of class with tag. So I'll get all the actors of class pilot's mech with a tag. So tags, if you don't know, so if you go to our mech here, real quick, where are their mech? Pilot mech, we have here a bunch of tags. So if you go to search details tags, and you can have a whole bunch of tags, right? But for I decide to be, a bit of a simple Steve, if you will, and I decide to just go for our first tag, we have not taken. And the reason why is, let's say we have multiple pilots. Like, let's say you have 5 pilots and 2 mechs. Then 2 of the pilots take, like one pilot takes one mech, the second pilot takes another mech. Well, then what about the other 3? The other 3, they shouldn't be, all try to go to the same ones, right? So let's say if we have, let's say we have 3 pilots, and notice how when I press play, 2 of those go, but one of them chases me. And like one of the pilots just chased me. So that is, and the reason why that happens is because of the tags. Now let's go elaborate further on the tags. Tags and that script, I should say. Where the heck is it? Find PMech. There we go. So then we get all actors of class with tag, and then we run a loop. And in our loop, basically, what this madness is saying is, hey guys, which one of these is the closest to me? Which one of these mechs is the closest to me? That is what this part determines. So let's go over this real quick. So basically, if we just start out like scanning and looking around like, hey, where are the mechs? Then we'll assume the first one we see is the one that is the possible distance, that is the closest one to us, right? Is the closest distance. Then we set that as our potential mech. So we get our array elements and we promote that to a variable. I call it potential mech. Not very creative, but once again, it gets the job done. Then let's say we're in our first, then we're in our second or third or fourth scan, and then we find distance that's actually closer than the one that we saw, like than the original distance that we saw, original mech that we saw. Then we say, okay, this one's actually the closest to me. Therefore, with the p distance, we will set it to that. So that's the one that's closest to me, and we should get that mech. And we keep looping and we keep looping, and then let's say we're done. Then we're like, okay, great, we're done. Now this part here, albeit frank, it also does look a bit iffy. It looks a bit complicated, but then we're like, okay, so guys, did we find potential mech? And if we don't, then we're like, okay, we're done. Finish execute. Finish execute, we're done. GG guys, we tried, but it's just not there. But if it is, if we have a potential mech, then what we'll do is we, for some reason, I know maybe this is fixed in later versions, but for some reason for our if we do get all actors of class with tag, then it just does a simple actor check. So to make sure that we're like, we need to get like we need to reference our actor as like as the actual mech. So we need to therefore just cast this, cast our potential mech as the piloted mech. Right? So like this is going to be the one that we're going to pilot. So we do we drag this here, cast to mech. So this is what we're going to get. And then from there, we are going to promote that to our variable. Fantastic. Then from there, once again with the tags, it's all about the tags. It's always about the tags, Mason. Anyway, so with the tags, what we'll do is we'll just make that 0th tag here, the one that is not taken, into taken. And if you remember, the variables that we talked about previously, so for the pilots, we have the mech that we're going to pilot, right? Like, so what are we going to pilot? And it's going to be this piloted mech. And then from our piloted mech, so like the mech that, so the mech is going like, then who's going to pilot me? And it's going to be our pilots. If you remember, we established that guy all the way back there. Then what we'll do is we'll say, get our Blackboard key selector, and we'll make that, we'll actually get, hold on, we could just actually say this. We could just genuinely drag and drop this. Yeah, I think that will alleviate some confusion. Reroute node. And then add reroute node. There we go. So then we will say that, hey, this mech is our, so basically, if you remember, for our pilot behavior tree, we're checking like, hey, is there a mech around here, guys? And we're going to say, yes, it is. So if you remember our variable, pmech, we will set it to the mech that we found. So to our pilot mech. And then we finish execute. That's it for our find pmech. And then to go to its location, select the actual mech's location, find pmech location. It's also fairly simple, but this time around we have two Blackboard key selectors, so be a bit careful there. And very simple events receive execute AI, finish execute at start and finish execute for the end. Then we drag and drop our pmech Blackboard key selector, get the Blackboard value as object, cast to, once again cast to the piloted mech to get actual location. Like I don't know why can't just do this. But like we have to cast it to some sort of actor so that way we can get its location, and then from there we want to get it in like a place that our pilots can actually go to. So radius of 100 and finish execute. That's what find pmech is. Now quick important side notes for both find pmech location, actually in general for like all of these custom tasks that you're going to make. and for all tasks actually, in general, please, 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 I beg you, be careful what keys you put, what variables from your blackboard you put, right? Like if you mess them up just by like one thing, then the whole thing can just go out of whack and just not work at all. So please be careful. To repeat, at the beginning we just see if we can't see the player. Then we see if PMech is set, so if we have like a mech that we can find. And if we can't, we try to find it. And whilst we're trying to find it, find player location, move to waits. And if we have found it, then we go to its location, move to waits. So that will just work as like, we'll go to the location of the mech. If we can't find it, we'll go to the player whilst we're also trying to find it. I think that's reasonable enough. Now let's go over, I believe, which one do I need to explain the most? I think let's go over, let's go over the red goober real quick, right? So notice how, like at this point, this guy is just going to go to the mech, and when it goes to the mech, it's going to collide with it, right? So I'll use the event hits for collision. You could use overlap, I believe, also, but I think hit is the most reliable. Anyway, so you'll use that. You know, the pilot has hit it, and what we're going to do is we're going to check if it is our PMech, right? So basically, if our pilot collides with the pilot mech, so like the mech that's going to pilot, and remember, we set that in our find PMech here. We set that over here. There it is, yeah. So we set that, we're like, hey, are we going to pilot, is this mech that I'm colliding with what I'm going to pilot? And then we're like, yeah, it is. Then what we do is we set a Boolean climbing mech, so like the mech that we're going to climb, and we do our timeline. Then we do a timeline of setting the actual location from point A, so climb starts, to point B. And once again, if you remember, piloted mech all the way back, we have these two scene components. That's why they are relevant, is because like when it'll collide, when the pilot collides with the mech, it will go to the climb start location, so climb start location, to the climb end location, and it will linearly interpolate between those two locations. And the way, and that will basically, that's like the illusion of climbing, if you will. So we'll go to our timeline real quick. I decided to go with the default 5 seconds for climbing. It looks fine to me. And what we do is we start from 0 and we go to 1. And basically, hold on. And if you want to add keys, by the way, you just go like this, right? Add key, and then, for example, 0, 1. Okay, I mean, like, it's already there, but you get the point. You get the gist, I believe. Anyways, so when we go, when we started like 0, so like when the timeline starts, it will start at our location, then it will linearly interpolate to the climb end location, and we plug that in. So like whilst it's going from like 0 to like, I don't know, 0.2 when it's the first second, it will be, you know, it'll be slowly moving up to our set actual location. And I think so anyways, if we were to try this, I think sweep would just like straight up break it. But like teleport, I think this doesn't really make a difference. I just had it like ticked and enabled. We'll just go with it. Why not? Let's not try anything funny now. And once we finish that, then we'll go with our pilot and mech, and we do something called activate. Like it's a custom function, activate, and then we destroy the pilot because we don't need it anymore. The pilot is supposed to be inside the mech, right? So now let's go over to our activate script for our activate script for our mech. So activate, what this will do is we'll play an animation. So like if you notice, like at the beginning, the mech is kind of tilted down like this. It's a bit flaccid, if you will. Then it will rise, right? So it will rise, right? With an animation. Then I believe that animation lasts for about a second, give or take. Now I believe there should be a more refinement to this. Play animation. or just play. So something like, no. Like there should be a more refined way to do this, but to be frank with you, I am not in the mood for I'm just actually in general not a refined animations expert, so that is not my area of expertise. I'm just trying to make like a bare bones basic how to make a system to potentially try to help you out. Right, anyway, so we'll play this animation. It lasts about a second. Then from there, what we do is we spawn the controller for a basic actor, right? So for a basic, what do you call it? For a basic enemy type, where that will just play, that will just do this. That will just use this behavior tree of like if it can see you, then it will try to chase you, and if it can't, then it'll just go to random location. Then from there we go to our hold on, where the heck is it? Then what we do is we make our mech, so our pilot mech, possess that controller. Then for this big ripoff, the reason why we have that, so for enemy parents, this is a child class of our actual main enemy enemy class. And what we have for that is like when it gets hit by when an enemy gets hit by projectile, we check how much health it has left. So we deal some damage, and if it still has like if the health is below 0 or equal to 0, then we do death event. And normally what death event does, it just destroys actor. But for the mech, it should act a bit more differently. And the reason why is we'll go over that. Well, nah. So what we do at the beginning is we check like what this mech is going to. We check like what pilot is piloting this mech, like if it has one. And what we do is if there isn't, then we say okay, that's great, just destroy actor. But there could be a pilot instance, and the reason why is, well, whilst the pilot is climbing. So, and in fact, we do check for that. We say if pilot is climbing the mech, then what we want to do is we want to destroy the pilot that is climbing the mech, and then destroy the mech itself. I mean, to me, that makes sense. Also, if you want to do it like this, there will be quite a few errors. I mean, if you could fix those, I imagine, but still, like when I tried to play around with the bits, there were quite a few errors. And basically what we're going to want to do is if it's climbing, then we'll just destroy the pilot and we'll destroy the mech itself. Rather simple. But if we're not climbing, so let's say that would basically mean that the enemy is like here and it's going towards it, and in the middle you destroy it, then what that will do, then what you want to do is we want to set for the pilot, what we want to say, basically, hey, buddy, your mech is destroyed. Not only that, you want to say that to the behavior tree, so where you do all this stuff, right? So we set the variable. We set the variable of pmech to basically nothing, right? So like null. So and to do that, we get our pilot instance. Then we get its controller. Then we say, hey, want to do this to the blackboard. So like where all these variables are. I want to do it to its to the blackboard. Set the value as object, and to get that you need to we say make literal name here pmech, we get that, and we set that to nothing. And we also wanted to just automatically say that we can still see the player, right? I mean, to me that also makes sense. If like the thing you're going towards gets destroyed, you should be able to see like, hey, it's coming from there. And then we'll destroy the actor. And then we'll destroy, we'll destroy the actor, so the mech. And to demonstrate that real quickly, like to see how that looks like, I'll get rid of these two guys. And I'll set the health of this one to, hold on, health, is it here? Oh no, my apologies, it isn't public. So we'll just go here. For now, we'll set, instead of 100, we'll just set it to 10. And check this out. So it'll see it, and the guy's going, oh, my mech. Nope. Okay, that one then. And then we'll climb to that one. Like so. Activates, and it's chasing me. And you're dead. And yeah, so that's how dying works. So the death for the mech will work. Now, I'm just trying to think, like, am I missing something? And I believe, yes, I am. So let's go over the controller real quick. So this is the standard enemy controller. So the Goober control that we spawn is at the beginning, we just run the behavior tree, Goober behavior tree. So this is the behavior tree that we spawn for our pilot and mech, and for our for our red goober, so the enemy that will act as your pilots. Once again, it's going to act a bit differently. So we'll go here, red goober, and here we go here, red goober, pawn, AI controller class. We'll click that magnifying glass there. Goober pilot controller, and once again, AI perception. We will check to see if we can find the player and stuff, but we'll run the behavior tree of the pilot behavior tree. And yeah, I actually believe that's it. I hope this helped you out. I hope this works for you. And yeah, see ya. Bye.